Hello, this is Sharon Kellam again, continuing her stories about the pins on her hats. Now, some of these pins are grouped. There's several pins in a group, so we'll have them together like that. The first is this flying angel, and I let it dangle and fly. It was hard for me to figure out how to attach it to my hat anyway, but I let it fly because the Irish say that angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And I always thought that would be a good thing for me to remember because I tend to take myself too seriously. That if I wanted to be like an angel, I needed to take myself lightly so I could fly. There's one more little angel on my hat, and it's here, this little tiny gold looking angel. And those are my two angels. Now, the next group of pins are my North Carolina pins. I am a North Carolinian, and people in South Carolina call themselves Carolinians, but we in North Carolina kind of smear it all together and say North Carolinians. So anyway, I'm a North Carolinian. And these are my North Carolina pins. The lighthouses are a group of pins, and if you're from North Carolina, you should know that there are several very important lighthouses down on the Outer Banks. It was called the Graveyard of the Atlantic because there were so many wrecks on the Outer Banks, and that's where Blackbeard ran and played a lot because he could hide. So there are many lighthouses. I have Bald Head Island is Old Baldy Lighthouse, and I have that pin. There are Bodie Island, Cape Hatteras, Cape Lookout, Currituck, Oak Island, Ocracoke. All of these names are famous to North Carolinians, and they're all part of a tremendous history of North Carolina, and many of them still operate, at least have a light. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is the tallest, and I have one of those pins. Was located to warn travelers of the shore line, the Graveyard of the Atlantic. It was very easy to run aground, and the sands shift back and forth. And no matter what they have done, they cannot dredge it out and make it stay in place. So they've had to sort of give up. It's still a very dangerous place, I think. Certainly for deep boats that have a deep, that go way down in the water. Here is one of the pins of the lighthouses. It's actually a North Carolina shape pin, and that one is Bald Head Island. That's Old Baldy. And let's see if I can find my other lighthouse pin. Oh dear. I'm not coming up with it. Oh, it's right beside it. Little teeny pin. And it's the one that has the black and white stripes. And that one is the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Probably the most famous one. Then I have more North Carolina pins, and these, as you know, most states have a state song, and they have a bird, and they have a flower, and they have a fish, and they have all kinds of things that they sit down in the state capitol and decide on. The cardinal, the red cardinal, is the bird for North Carolina, and so I have a cardinal right here on my hat, a little red cardinal. Yes. And then the dogwood is the state flower. And somewhere I have a dogwood pin, and this is sort of special to me because a friend of mine gave me this dogwood pin. Now am I coming up with it? Let's see. Oh, yes, it's actually, the flower is on the pin. It's kind of hard to see that. But she gave me that pin. She said, oh, she's a North Carolinian also. She said, your hat would not be complete without the dogwood. And then we're called Tar Heels. There are many different stories as to why we're called Tar Heels. But supposedly in the war between the states, or the War of Northern Aggression, as we call it in the South, the North Carolinians, there's a lot of tar in this state, red tar. And I think more North Carolinians actually died in that battle than any of the other southern states. But we were one of the very last to join. We were very reluctant to jump into the war. There's a real mixed bag here, and a lot of Quakers that didn't want to fight, and people that were very mixed about the whole thing. But we did get in, and we actually lost more people than any of the other states. But in that, one of the battles, there were so many North Carolinians that died, and also the battle was turned because the North Carolinian fighters would not back off. They were more like, I don't know what you would call them, they were like in the brush fighters. They just weren't very ethical, but they'd run and shoot, and they wouldn't give up. They wouldn't back off. So they won that battle because of the North Carolina boys. And supposedly one of the generals said, I guess they've got tar on their heels because we have so much tar and red clay down here. And said, and a lot of pine trees that produce that tar too from down east. And said, we need to stick. I think we won the battle because the North Carolinians have tar on their heels and they wouldn't back off, and they stuck. So we became known as the Tar Heel State. Let's see if I can find my Tar Heel. It's a little tiny pin also, but it does have a little tiny bit of black on the heel. And I think mainly that's because of the rosin from the pine trees, that for many, many years that was one of the large sources of income in the state. Now, I think that's all my North Carolina pins, but I do have a very special pin here for Alaska. They called that our last frontier, and when I grew up it wasn't a state, and then later it did become a state. And my dream was always to be able to see that last frontier, to go to Alaska. Here is the pin that I have. Somebody gave me that pin. I've never been to Alaska, but I've always had a dream of being able to see our last frontier. And I said, I yearn to go to see our last frontier, but I will just have to go there in my mind, because I will not get there now. But I can go and see pictures and see videos and go in my mind. Now, as I told you earlier, I was a music major in college, and I have my degrees in music. I have a master's in music, and have written several books about music history, especially the shape note tradition, American shape note tradition of that. I have many pins on my hat that denote the different instruments that I play, because I play more than just my voice, which is an instrument, is the instrument we came in with, or born with, but I have many other instruments that I played. And when I got my undergrad degree, I was qualified to teach band or orchestra, and had to toot, plunk, or whistle. I was able to make a sound on all those instruments, and should be able to conduct the choir, or the band, or the orchestra. So these are some of my musical instruments. I was a piano major at one time. I did an piano recital. I also did a voice recital. But there's the piano. And here is the treble clef, loaded with lots of pins on music. And here's another, let's see. That's not music. I'm going to hit them all here. Here is just a key, you know, a shape note key. This is one of the shapes. And also there is a banjo. I'm sure I have on here a banjo, a guitar, a fiddle, a dulcimer. There's the banjo, and right beside it is a dulcimer, and right above it is the guitar. And I do have the piano. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Okay, those are the instruments, but a very special pin that I have on this hat is another kind of swinging pin that I got when I was studying. I actually studied viola. My fiddle teacher did all the strings, and so viola is one of the strings. It's a fat violin. And for one spring or Christmas, I can't remember, we all got a present from her that had graduated, that were her special string people. And it was very special, and it was so that we would always be in tune. So this is my special pitch pipe that she gave all of us, and I just treasure that so much. It blows it blows A at 440. I'll have to put it back on my hat. But it blows A at 440, so we would never be out of tune. Now, if you know anything about history and music, A wasn't always 440. If you go back far enough, it was a different vibration. But it's okay, we have relative pitch. So, I'll always be in tune. And I hope you will be in tune. And I will see you here for more stories next time.